Hello? This will be book 10 of the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, as well as some thoughts on it. One. Is it possible that one day I shall see you, O my soul, good, simple, indivisible, stripped of every pretense, more solid than the flesh that now covers you? Will you ever know a day of unclouded love and tenderness? Will you ever be content? No hopes, no regrets, needing nothing, desiring nothing, animate or inanimate, not even for a moment's pleasure. Nor wanting a little more time to prolong the ecstasy, or a more pleasing room or view or climate or more sweet accord in your relations with others. When will you be content with your present condition, happy with all you have, accepting it as a gift from the gods and acknowledging that all is well with you and that all will be well? When will you understand that the gods hold dear those gifts? The good, the just, the beautiful, they intend for the preservation of a perfect living whole. Gifts that nourish the universe by gathering and binding the primal elements, dispersed by dissolution and decay and needed for each new creation. Will there ever come a day, O my soul, where you can live in the company of men and gods, blameless in their eyes, without blaming them at all? 2. Since you are governed by inanimate nature, pay attention to what it is telling you and act upon it, unless your animal nature objects. In that case, obey your animal nature without hesitation, unless it is contradicted in turn by reason. The dictates of reason, of course, also cover the norms of society. Apply these rules to your life and get on with it. 3. Whatever happens, either you have the strength to bear it or you don't. If you have the strength, stop complaining, be grateful, and bear it. If you lack the strength, there is still no reason to lose patience, for once your strength is consumed, the struggle will end. But remember, you have the power within you to endure anything, for your mere opinion can render it tolerable, perhaps even acceptable, by regarding it as an opportunity for enlightenment or a matter of duty. 4. If someone makes a mistake, correct him with kindness and point out where he went wrong. If you fail, blame only yourself, or better yet, don't blame anyone. 5. Whatever happens to you was destined to happen from before time began. Your entire existence, as well as the smallest details of your work and days, were woven into the woof of cause, the weft of effect from all eternity. 6. Whether the universe is composed of an infinite number of blind atoms, or one all-seeing nature, two things are clear. First, I am a part of the universe governed by nature, and second, I am related in some way to the other parts like myself. Once I acknowledge this, I shall be content with any role the universe assigns me, for nothing is bad for the part that is good for the whole, and the whole contains nothing which is not good for it. This is true for everything in nature, but the world has an additional safeguard. Nothing from outside can interfere or force it to generate something harmful to itself. Realizing that I am part of just such a universe, I will calmly accept whatever happens. And because I am related to the other parts like myself, I will not seek my own advantage at their expense, but I will study to know what is our common good and bend every effort to advance that good and to dissuade others from acting against it. If I am successful in this, my life is bound to flow smoothly, as one would expect from the dutiful citizen who is always looking out for others and enjoys whatever work his community asks of him. 7. It is necessary for everything in the universe to perish, which is the same as saying that all parts of the whole must change. Now, if the atrophy and extinction of its parts are unintended, It is difficult to see how the whole universe can escape deterioration and eventual death. Has nature chosen to damage its own parts by making them susceptible to harm and bent on harming one another? Or did this happen without nature's knowledge and participation? Neither of those possibilities seem likely. Or suppose we leave a purposeful nature out of it and say that this is just the way things are. How absurd it then is in one breath to say that everything in the universe is bound to change, and in the next breath to express shock or resentment at a particular change, as though it were in violation of some moral or physical law, especially in light of the fact that each part tends to return to the primal elements from which it originated. Consider this protean process. Either the atoms making up the parts are dispersed, or what is solid returns to earth, and what is gas rejoins the air in such a way that these elements re-enter the womb of being, which is either periodically consumed by fire or continually renewed by the return of its offspring. If you ascribe to the second theory, it would be a mistake to assume that your solid and gaseous parts date from birth. They are no older than the food you ate and the air you breathed yesterday or the day before. All this change, therefore, works upon a part, or if you will, a person, who is in a continual state of flux, constantly being recreated, and no longer the same baby his mother once bore. Nor do I see any contradiction in the fact that we identify this metamorphizing part or person as one and the same over time. 8. When you allow others to call you good, modest, sincere, open-minded, fair-minded, high-minded, be sure that you don't disappoint them, or if you do, be quick to restore these virtues to their eyes. Remember that the open-minded attend meticulously to details and work through problems without being distracted. That the fair-minded accept gladly the conditions that nature imposes. That the high-minded place reason above the storms and doldrums of the flesh, that is, above fame, death, and the like. In fact, if you can learn to embody these virtues rather than just to wear them for appearance's sake, you will be a new man and you will begin to live a new life. You continue in your old life, perpetually distracted by something or disgruntled with someone, shows no more intelligence and courage than gladiators who, half devoured by wild beasts, their bodies gaping with wounds and drenched in gore, beg to be kept alive for one more day, and all they have to look forward to is facing again the same claws and fangs. Cast off with these few faithful friends, and know that if you sail in close company with them, they will surely bring you to the Isles of the Blessed. But if you find yourself unable to keep up and falling behind, be a man and make a decent life in some quiet corner of the world. Or failing that, take leave of this life altogether, not in a foul temper, but simply, freely, honorably, having succeeded at least in making a brave end. This afterthought. Lest you become distracted with the titles others give you and the noble attributes they ascribe to you, you should bear in mind that the gods themselves are not interested in this sort of flattery. They desire, instead, for all rational beings to imitate their attributes for the purpose of becoming like them, just as a fig tree does the work of a fig tree, the dog the work of a dog, the bee the work of a bee, and man the work of a man. Hysteria, combat, terror, lethargy, servility, the stuff of daily existence. These attenuate the sacred principles which, unless rooted deep in a reflective life, are easily distracted. Let this be your goal. In all things to act with dispatch, while making thorough observations, taking into consideration any relevant theories, and preserving your knowledge of the most minute and concrete details. When will you learn to seek your happiness in the simple things, in dignity, in the knowledge of what is at the heart of each thing, its place in the world, its length of days, its composition, to whom it belongs, and whose it is to give or take away? 10. A spider glories in trapping a fly. So does one man in catching a hare, another in netting a sardine, another boars, or bears, or sarmatians. Examine their principles. Are they not all thieves and cutthroats? 11. Develop your own methods for observing how all things are in a continual state of change one into another. Be ready and welcome it when it is your turn to experience change, for there is nothing like it to heighten your sensibilities and elevate your mind. At the moment of change, a man's soul takes flight, and being in this instant reminded that he will soon be called upon to leave the world of things and the company of men, he devotes himself wholeheartedly to justice in whatever he does and to nature in whatever is done to him. His mind is no longer troubled by what someone may say or think about him or do against him, and he finds perfect contentment in these two things only: to do the task at hand justly and to embrace his fate gladly. Throwing off all other considerations and schemes, his one ambition is to run the straight race marked out by the law in pursuit of the swift-footed gods who never leave this sure course. 12. Why do you hesitate or second-guess yourself when you know perfectly well what ought to be done? If you know where you need to go, make a considerate but determined effort to get there. If you don't, wait and seek the best advice you can find. If you meet with resistance along the way, advance cautiously and prepare at any moment to take refuge in what you know to be just, for to reach your goal justly is the apotheosis of achievement, whereas to advance even 1 inch by doing an injustice is the most miserable form of failure. Relaxed but alert, cheerful but determined. Such is reason's faithful follower. 13. From the moment you wake up, ask yourself, does it really matter if someone criticizes my correct and just acts? Not at all. How can you forget how those who take pride in praising and blaming others behave in bed and at table? What they pursue, what they flee, what they lust after, what they reveal, what they snatch and make away with. Not with their hands and feet, but with noblest part of themselves, the very part from which springs, if they will it, faith, honor, truth, loyalty, and a good spirit. 14. To nature, the giver and taker of all things, the wise and self-respecting man says, give what it is your pleasure to give, take what you will. This he says, not in a tone of swaggering machismo, but in an attentive and obedient voice. 15. What remains of life is short. Live it as if on a craggy mountain height, for what does it matter where one lives? Whether in a city or in the wilderness, you are a citizen of the world. Let men behold in you a true man, one who lives in harmony with nature. If they can't bear it, let them put you to death. Better to die than to live like them. 16. Stop all this theorizing about what a good man should be. Be it. 17. Strive continually to imagine time eternal and space infinite. Then tell yourself that a planet in space is but a fig seed, an epoch in time like the twist of a tendril. 18. Focus on any material object. See how it is changing before your eyes, dissolving, decaying, dissipating, and in what way it is born to die. 19. Eating, sleeping, copulating, defecating. Just look at them. See what airs they put on, becoming puffed up or lapsing into paroxysms of rage, overwhelming us with their high-sounding reproaches. It wasn't long ago they were toadies sucking up to some boss, and it won't be long before they're groveling again. 20. What nature gives is best, and best, too, at the time it is given. 21. The earth loves rain and holy ether, too. Yes, how nature loves to create whatever it is to be. To this nature I profess, I share your love. Is this not what we mean when we say love will find a way? (22) Either you go on living here at the center of things, or you withdraw from the active life and move away. Or you die and your work is done. There is no other choice but these, so take heart. 23. Bear in mind that your hermitage goes wherever you go. The good life is the same here as it is in the mountains or by the sea. It is, as Plato said, sheltered in his mountain fold, milking his bleating flocks. 24. What is this governing self I'm supposed to have? Of what use is it? Is it serving some purpose at this moment? Can it reason? Is it severed from society and incapable of forming human attachments? Is it so melted into my flesh and melded with my body that it is no longer free? 25. The slave who flees his master is a runaway. The law, too, is a master, and whoever breaks it is in the same position as a runaway slave. Likewise, those who become irritable, angry, or afraid because something has already happened, is just happening, or is about to happen are, in effect, refusing to accept the natural and causal laws of the universe. In giving way to irritation, anger, or fear, they are no better than runaway slaves. 26. A man has sex and goes about his business, and sometimes later a new cause discovers him, works on it, and produces a fully formed baby. What an astonishing sequence of events. Later, this baby begins to swallow food that disappears down its throat, where another cause takes over to produce sensation and emotion, in a word, life and vital energy in all its forms. Contemplate these mysteries and observe their hidden power, which can be seen just as clearly as the uplifting and down-pressing force of gravity, although not with the eyes. 27. Keep in mind that what goes on today went on yesterday and will go on again tomorrow. From your own experience or from your reading of history, you have taken in the same shows, watched the very same scenes staged by the court of Hadrian, the court of Antonius, and the courts of Philip, Alexander, Croesus. Same shows, same scenes, same parts, only the names of the actors change. 28. The next time you hear someone bemoaning his fate or complaining about something, visualize the pig at a sacrifice, squealing and kicking. It's the same with a person who lies upon his lonely bed, lamenting his pains or cursing his constraints in silence. Only the rational being can embrace his fate and follow the course of events willingly. Those who howl and whine can merely follow. 29. Every time you do something, stop and ask yourself, is death to be feared because it will deprive me of this? 30. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following questions. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Is it love of money, or pleasure, or reputation? And so on until you have identified the closest cousin. By redirecting your attention in this way, you will soon forget your anger as you realize that he can't help himself any more than you can. How can he possibly overcome the compulsion to do wrong? If you can help him with this, you've helped yourself as well. 31. When you are Satyran, imagine someone long dead like Socrates, Atticus, or Hymen. When it is Euphrates you are looking at, think of him as Eutychian or Sylvanus. With Alciphron, substitute Tropiophorus, and seeing Severus, imagine Crato or Xenophon. When you look at yourself, think of one of the Caesars of old, and similarly with everyone. Make this substitution and ask yourself, where are they all now? Nowhere, or nobody knows where. This habit will help you see all things human as smoke and nothingness, especially if you remember that once a thing changes, it ceases to exist for all eternity. Why then get all wound up? Why not be content to pass your short time here in an orderly way? What material condition or station in life can you possibly be afraid of, since everything gives you an opportunity to exercise your reason in making an accurate and philosophical assessment of life? Persevere, then, until you have learned everything life has to teach you, the way a healthy stomach digests all sorts of food, and a roaring fire converts whatever is heaped on it to heat and light. 32. Let no one be able to say truthfully that you are not honest or good. If someone says this, you have the power to make him a liar. Who prevents you from being honest and good? You need only resolve to end your life if you cannot be such a man, for in this case not even reason obliges you to go on living. 33. What is the very best you can say or do with the material you have to work with? Whatever that is, you can say or do it. Make no excuse by claiming that something prevents you. You will never stop bemoaning your fate until it becomes as natural for you to follow the law of your being, in whatever material conditions you find yourself, as it is for a hedonist to go after pleasure. Indeed, every opportunity to speak or act according to the law of your being should give you pleasure, and that opportunity exists everywhere. A cylinder is not free to roll at will, nor is fire or water or anything else that is governed by the nature peculiar to souls without reason. Many hindrances and obstacles stand in their way. Intelligence and reason, on the other hand, possess both the nature and the will to surmount obstacles in their path. See how reason overcomes whatever hinders it with the ease of a fire rising, a stone dropping, or a cylinder rolling down a slope. Look no further than this. The remaining obstacles either act upon the body, an inanimate subject, or they are powerless to defeat or do harm unless the mind yield to a false impression or surrender its own reason. Were this not so, these obstacles would have the effect of making a man bad. We observe the proof of this in nature. Whenever anything is hindered, its condition deteriorates and becomes worse, where some man actually becomes better and more praiseworthy, and he overcomes what hinders him through the use of reason. In summary, remember that whatever does not hurt the man who is by nature a citizen does not hurt the city, nor is the city hurt by what does not hurt the law. Now, not one of all the things a man is apt to call bad luck hurts the law. Therefore, bad luck cannot hurt the city or the citizen either. (34) For the man who feels the bite of truth, even the most succinct and commonplace saying helps guard him against grief and fear. This, for example: the generations of men leaves the wind scattered over the face of the earth. Your children are tender leaves as well. Leaves, too, are the crowd that wants you to hear their shouts of praise, or that curses you openly, or blames and scoffs behind your back. Leaves, likewise, are those on whom the memory of your fame rests, for all these blossom in the springtime, and are soon blown away by the autumn winds, and the forest replaces them all. A short life characterizes everything, yet you pursue or shun these things as if they held the secret of life everlasting. Little while, and you will close your eyes, and not long after someone else will mourn the one who bore you to the grave. 35. The healthy eye sees whatever is visible and does not say, like someone suffering from ophthalmia, "I want only to see what is green." Having a healthy sense of hearing and smell means being alert to every sound and scent. The healthy stomach can digest all kinds of food, like the molar that is prepared to grind whatever we put in our mouths. Just so, the healthy mind should be prepared for whatever happens. The mind protesting, "Keep my children from dying, and may all men praise every little thing I do," is an eye looking only for what is green, and a tooth wanting only what is easy to chew. 36. No one is possessed of such good fortune that he can lie dying without being circled by people rejoicing in his imminent demise. Was he high-minded and wise? then you can be sure that someone will be muttering to himself, "Now we can breathe easy again with that schoolmaster out of the way." Although he was never harsh with any of us, I always felt he was silently judging us. So much for the virtuous man's reward. As for the rest of us, think of all the good reasons we've given our friends to be happy to be rid of us. Think of this at the approach of death, and ease your passing with these reflections. In the life I am leaving behind, even the friends for whom I toiled and prayed and agonized so much wanted me out of the way, hoping by my death to gain some sort of relief. Why then should you lengthen your stay? But do not, because of this, leave any less well disposed to them. Be true to your best self, friendly, good-natured, and kind. Leave them not as a man being torn away, but die a peaceful death, with the soul slipping easily from the body. Nature brought you together and tied you to them, and now she cuts the knot. I am separated as from kinsmen. I am not dragged away, and I do not resist. It is just another natural act. 37. In everything you see someone else do, make it a habit to ask yourself, what is his purpose in doing this? But begin with yourself. Question your own actions first. 38. Remember, what pulls the strings is a power hidden deep within you. It is what moves you. It is life. It is, one might even say, the man himself. Never make the mistake of picturing it with the fleshy shell encasing it or the organs attached to it. These are like a carpenter's tools, except that they are joined to the body by nature. Without the inner power that moves or stays these parts, they are as useless as a weaver's shuttle, a writer's pen, or a charioteer's whip. Okay. So some thoughts on these. Part 1 here, right? Is it possible that one day I shall see you, oh, my soul, good, simple, indivisible, stripped of every pretense, more solid than the flesh that now covers you? Will you ever know a day of unclouded love and tenderness? Right? When will you be content with your present condition, right? Well, we start off book 10, and he's like, okay, when am I going to die and see myself clearly? Understand who and what I am, be able to access my soul, and for my soul not to suffer in this world, in this life, in this constant want, right? Because, when will you be content with your present condition, happy with all you have? When will you understand that gods hold dear those gifts they intend for the preservation of the perfect living whole? No hopes, no regrets, needing nothing, desiring nothing, animate or inanimate, not for a moment's pleasure. No wanting a little more time to prolong the ecstasy, or a more pleasing room or view or climate, or more sweet accord in your relations with others. When will we stop wanting things? You can see an echo of Buddhist thought here, even though Buddhist thought does not yet exist. It's these words are the words of someone who is tired, right? He is the emperor. He's in charge. He can do anything he wants, and yet he gets something and he wants more and more and more. And he sees the people around them, and someone asks for a reward for doing some sort of job. Well, they give it to them, and they want more and more and more. I mean, you grow up and you see people who are happy, and you realize one day, oh, they are not happy. They became unhappy somehow. They achieved all they wished. They're rich and famous, with a family and a job and a joy and a creation and a home, and yet something is missing. They are not complete. Why? Because they have lived, and now they live again. They wake up the next day changing, and so do we. On number 2, he gives a bit of advice. You're governed by inanimate nature, so pay attention to that. Unless your animal nature objects. And if your animal nature, and obey your animal nature unless it is contradicted by reason. Okay? So, there's a rock falling towards me. I know that rock's going to hit me. So why am I, what am I going to do? Punch the rock? It's a giant boulder. It's going to crush me like an egg, right? There's no point in fighting against pure force. If you are arm wrestling someone or you're in a judo hold and you know they're going to break your arm, stop fighting, right? This is pure force. Pay attention to inanimate nature. Otherwise, inanimate nature is going to crush you and hurt you. But sometimes you see this inanimate nature. You see the rock, or you feel the judo hold, or you are panicked or afraid, and your animal nature, the part of you which doesn't even think but just acts. Listen to that. Jump out of the boulder's coming towards you. Jump out of the way. Don't stand there going, "Oh God, what should I do?" Okay, if I got left, right, I just jump. Your animal nature is telling you that if you're in a judo hold, you're losing a fight, and how badly do you want to win this fight? Are you willing to have your arm broken and still try and get up? You could manage that for a couple seconds. Are you panicked and afraid? Why are you panicking? Why are you afraid? Your animal nature is telling you something is off here, something is wrong. Think of just in your daily life. Think of a social situation. You start panicking, and that is a message. It's a message from your animal nature about what you should do, but that something is wrong. Pay attention here, unless it is contradicted by reason. Because our animal nature looks at things and makes choices which keep us alive in the short term, but in the long term, mistakes may be made, right? Are you in a social situation and you're freaking out? Reason says you can survive this. You need to calm down, focus, shut out the noise of the crowd, focus on the person you're talking to. Are you in a fight? Well, your animal nature is saying, arg, bare teeth and claws. Reason might tell you, back away, right? Reason might say, pull out a knife. Reason might say, get your friends and come back later. Reason might say, I don't actually need to get into this battle. They may have insulted me or said something, but I don't need to get myself in danger because of this. I might be angry right now, but if I punch them, then I get sued for assault. Or if I punch them, they might die because they hit them wrong. If they punch them, then their friends are going to come after me, and we're going to start a feud. And my reason is saying, okay, calm down or do a better job. Is a boulder rolling down the hill towards you? Yeah, animal nature says get out of the way. Reason tells you which way to jump. Reason says get out of the way, look at it, make sure, keep an eye on what's going on, understand what's going on, what's happening around you so that you can better react. Sometimes you want to take a little half second to just stop, look around, and then move. Sometimes you want to move immediately. It all depends on the circumstance. It all depends on which part you are listening to. You can't fight inanimate nature, but perhaps you could learn to use a lever to get it out of the way. This is science. This is rhetoric. Okay, so 3 here. This is a little more complicated, I think, than he puts it. It says, whatever happens, either you have the strength to bear it or you don't. And I think there's always another option, right? Look, if something terrible happens to me, either I can't bear it and it crushes me and I die. Or I can bear it and it hits me and it bounces off and I'm fine. Or more likely, it hits me, I can bear it, but I'm bent or I'm dented. Some part of my life or my happiness or my mental space or my faith in myself or my hope is bashed. It's out of tune. And we repair, we become better. We're strong, we're made of metal. There's cores of iron and gold and steel and bronze and all that. Sometimes we need a good sleep after a rough day and we're fine. But sometimes healing is not so easy. Sometimes we hurt our shoulder and it manages to mess us up for the next 15 years. Sometimes we fail in an endeavor and we recall that failure for the next 10 years. Sometimes we are silent when we should speak, or we speak when we should be silent, and only later do we recognize we did something wrong and that regret hits us and wounds us somehow. Or even worse, it hits us and opens up a wound that we had thought was healed. We may become bent out of shape bit by bit without even knowing it. Why am I angry all the time? Why am I sad? Why don't I find joy as I used to? It didn't happen all in one day, this terrible event, this new person I am, this dreadful life. It was step by step. Down into hell we wander. We can go upwards too, right? We can knock the dents out. If we're bent out of shape, then bend us back. But it's not always easy. What Marcus is trying to point out in this book, right? The idea is, who am I, right? I can be hit, I can be wounded and bruised by my upbringing or by a failure of mine. I can lie asleep and have nightmares. I can lie awake in bed and reflect upon a day that I wish I had done something else instead. Where I wish I had done something else instead. And we can ask, really, who am I? Is one way out of this, right? Was I injured? Did I hurt? Did I screw up? Well, that was then. This is now. I can't go back. I can't fix it, right? So what's the point of holding this regret? What's the point of having this angst? What's the point of letting it hurt me and decide who I am and what I do and how I believe and how I act? That was then. This is now. You understand what has happened. You understand it clearly. You view it and place it in its proper relationship to your ideal person that you are. And then you move on. The body cannot be so easily fixed. My back is messed up, my shoulder, my knee, because I hit by a car, or I was bent over, or I had a surgery, or I played too much in a game. My eyes, my head, I have scars in places, I can always feel the danger of carpal tunnel. But that's not me. Not really. Cut off my finger, cut off my hand, cut off my arm, and I still remain. Break my legs, inject me with a poison that causes immense pain every day. I am still me. It may be harder to explain myself, to extend myself into the world, into the earth, but it is my mind that decides who I am. It is my choices. And so when I say I am dented and I'm hurt and I'm bent, I'm trying to say like my soul is dented or my mind is broken, or at least poked with holes. But the person that happened to is already dead. The being that regrets has passed away. Now I am me today, and as long as I do the best I can, as long as I act justly, not necessarily in result outside, but in the result inside, as long as I believe that I myself am trying to be good, then I can unbend. Because I can shed like a lizard my old skin, my old beliefs, my old way of life, and become something new. And I can do this like a snap of the finger. because I am free. Free as a bird, as free as a god, as free as a ghost, wandering to and fro, not really touched by the mortal flow. Yeah, so an 8 here. To continue in your old life, perpetually distracted by something or disgruntled with someone, shows no more intelligence and courage than gladiators who, half devoured by wild beasts, their bodies gaping with wounds and drenched in gore, begged to be kept alive for one more day when all they have to look forward to is facing again the same claws and fangs. If you find yourself unable to keep up and falling behind, be a man and make a decent life in some quiet corner of the world, or failing that, take leave of this life altogether, not in a foul temper, but simply, freely, honorably, having succeeded at least in making a brave end. Basically, I understand what he's saying here as, look, if you aren't going to be better, if you aren't going to choose, if you're going to simply live as a beast in the woods, if you're going to be a person, a man, a woman, a dog who is ordered by someone else to believe this or feel that, if you are chasing after pleasure and gold and you're always wanting and wanting and needing and you're never actually willing to go and fix yourself, if you're always out here blaming someone else for internal problems, if you're mad and angry and sad and you're never, not only never happy, but never free, if you never take responsibility for your own actions and choices, right? And if your life is terrible, if your life is horrible, if your life isn't there because you are not willing to act, not willing to be alive, not willing to make a choice for yourself, not willing to rise above inanimate flesh and the animal nature, if you're not willing to become a human being with free will, then what's the damn point? You're just a rock or a dog chasing after pleasure, and as this pleasure keeps you alive, and then one day it won't be enough. One day your body will hurt, one day your loves will leave, one day you will suffer and not know if that suffering shall ever end. If you find yourself hurt so badly that life isn't worth living, why be alive? If you find that you have become a scourge upon the world and the people and nature, if you find that you are hurting the ones you love, or that you are degrading the story and the philosophy that you once so admired, then leave. Get out. There's no point in remaining because you're already dead. You're already a rock or a corruption. But if you chase after what Aurelius calls the gods, which are not gods in the Christian sense, but rather forces of nature, rather the heart of life, the spark of divinity that lies within all living things, the free will, which is the greatest power and gift, far more than anything else, any torture or blessing ever conceived. If you are willing to take responsibility, if you're willing to say, I am me and I decide who I am and what I am and how I move, then life may still be worth living. Why? Because you are alive. You aren't a dog. You aren't a rock. You aren't an animal. You're a human being. And that means you can be whatever you want. That means you can choose to act. That means you can live and breathe. That means you can become happy. Not because of outside events or effects, not because you are praised or damned or blessed, but because you know you are free. Because you know that you have done the very best you can. Because you know that no god or power that was good and holy could curse you for trying to be yourself, trying to accord your life to reason, trying to attach yourself to the great powers of reality, trying to become better than you were yesterday. And you may fail and make mistakes, but that is not so terrible. After all, we do not know how everything will end, only that it will end. We do not know that any bad thing you do could have an effect upon someone far in the future. The terrible story of your life and your actions might teach somebody later and avert a great evil. Your efforts to stop a massacre may appear to amount to nothing, but if you saved one life, who knows what effect that could have in the future. There are philosophers we know whose works only remain in the words of others. There are buildings we have found and clay tablets that contain the name of a person and nothing else beyond that. We know that they've existed and they may thus inspire. You do not know what the world outside has to give. You only know what the world inside is. So how do you want to live? I think it's quite obvious that Aurelius is contemplating suicide this entire time, but he's chosen not to go because well, it's not entirely clear because, right? He believes it's his duty to be a good emperor. He believes that this is an action he has to take. He believes that the gods will reward him in the afterlife, if there is one, and who knows. He believes that we do not know what happens afterward, and so we may as well do the best we can now. There are 1,000 reasons Marcus Aurelius has chosen not to die. But in the end, it really only comes down to one reason. He has decided not to pass away. He has decided to continue trying. And after all, it is probably one of the deepest moral philosophies of all existence. You can't ask more than that, because no one can do more than that. Mm, 12. Why do you hesitate or second guess yourself when you know what you ought to do? If you know where you need to go, make a considerate but determined effort to get there. If you don't, wait and seek the best advice you can find. Right? So, I think there's something interesting there. Obviously, if I know where I want to go, if I know who I want to be, if I know what I want to achieve, then I ought to go and aim for that. But if I don't, which is the story of my life, I don't know what I want, I don't know what I need, I don't know why I'm even here. Don't know about the point of any of it, really. I'm just me alone in my room talking to myself. Right? I'm not one of those people who goes towards a goal. I'm not one of those people who says, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to own a house someday. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to make this art piece. I'm going to become president. I'm going to get a promotion. I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to learn about the ancient world. I'm going to write my own book. I am going to become the next Tolkien. I am going to enjoy my life. But mere pleasure isn't enough. That comes and goes. It fades eventually. Why am I here? And Marcus Aurelius's goal advice, I think, for someone without a goal is, if you don't, wait and seek the best advice you can find. And this is what I've done. This is the story of my life. You read books, you talk to people, you look around, you try different things. You take a job here or there, you travel, you meet new people, you attempt to create artwork or books, you play games, you cut wood or carve wood. You do something, right? You volunteer at a pet shelter. You buy a new car. You go see a play. Just live and ask and look and learn, and right, that's the story of my life. Keep doing little things bit by bit and see if anything clicks. Because everyone's going to give you advice. Everyone's going to tell you should do this, you should do that. And it's all good advice. It's just, that's their life and not mine. So it's the amalgamation, I think, is what I'm looking for. It's the spark that lights a fire, that pushes me towards a desire. And that's not going to always be the same. What I want tends to change and move around, and I grow bored as soon as I see beyond the surface of something. But perhaps with a wide enough view, I might move on towards you. If you meet with resistance along the way, advance cautiously. Prepare at any moment to take a refuge in what you know to be just, for to reach your goal justly is the hypothesis of achievement. Or as to advance even 1 inch by doing an injustice is the most miserable form of failure. And this is a worry. I know there's all sorts of things I can do, but it doesn't feel quite right to do any of those. And yet the path of what I feel I should do is so convoluted and filled with thorns and slow and meandering, it winds back on itself. It's tough, difficult, and all I can do is the best I can, right? I can't ask myself more than that. Just that I'm never quite sure if I'm actually doing the best I can. Perhaps the best I can alone. But you always have the feeling that you could be something greater. It's interesting reading Marcus Aurelius because you can see echoes of modern thought. I can see echoes of my own thought. You can connect personally with him in a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's just advice. And it doesn't mean that I have to choose to pay the price of following it. I can always do my own. And at the end of the day, it comes down to me. This is my long death. This is my long life. This is my story. And there's no one else listening to it. Not really. No one else who knows why it was written. No one else who can say why it was written except me and me alone. So yeah, I take advice, but not orders. And that doesn't always feel nice. I don't always sound nice. I fail a lot, but I'm aiming for a just thought. So 14. To nature, the giver and taker of all things, the wise and self-respecting man says, give what is your pleasure to give, take what you will. This he says, not in a tone of swaggering machismo, but an attentive and obedient voice. And this is interesting, I think, because it illustrates how tone makes a difference, okay? Give what you can give, take what you can't, take what you will. Give what you want to give away what you want to give, take what you want to take. This is what it says. But don't listen to the tone of swaggering machismo, because you can do that, right? Everything I want is mine, and I'll give you some scraps, but I'm greedy and guzzling. Or I'm the man of the house. I tell you what to do and how to do it, and I'm the one in charge. I'm the manager, ma'am. You can go away. I don't need to talk to you. You aren't important. I don't need to give you the time of day. That is to focus so much on yourself, to be rude, to decide that what you want to take and what you want to give are mismatched to an extreme degree that you take and take and take, but you never feel it's enough. Whereas in an attentive and obedient voice is to say, the outside world is only so important. The terrible things that happen to me, I will take them. The wonderful things that happen to me, I will take them. I will take everything that happens to me as fate, and I will learn from it. I will be blessed by it, not cursed, because this is an opportunity. I'm paying attention, oh universe, messages you send me. Every bit of love, every bit of hate, every bit of desire, every bit of change, every bit of wisdom is a lesson for me and exists for a reason or a cause. Everything I give, my attention, my voice, my love, my hate is also for a cause, also for a reason. And I need to understand what that reason is. Understand myself, understand the universe. These are the same things. This is the same claim. So I don't act as a swaggering machismo, but in an attentive and obedient voice. I will not cry and whine because the world gives me what I do not want. I will not cry and whine because I gave away an important thought. "15. This is one of those dangerous ones, I think. Right? Not at the beginning, but at the end. It says, whether in a city or the wilderness you are a citizen of the world. Let men behold you and you a true man one who lives in harmony with nature. If they can't bear it, let them put you to death. Better to die than to live like them." So the first part is just, look, be yourself in the midst of company. Whether I am alone on a mountaintop, whether I'm in the midst of a crowd, I am still me, and these others around are merely ghosts in the machine. They don't have the ability to determine my decisions. They can cut my tongue out, they can destroy my body, but they cannot obliterate my soul, my mind, my decision-making. They can't destroy the essence of what I am. They can only dent the outer shell, right? And oftentimes we go into crowds and we act differently. We talk with certain people and we act differently than we do in other times. Oftentimes we are alone, and I know some people exist who do not like to be alone, who cannot bear to be alone. And others who cannot bear to be in crowds, cannot bear to be with other people. They're both imbalanced. And it says, if they can't bear it, let them put you to death, right? There will be people who say, oh my God, you join us. Become one with us. Act like us, look like us, speak like us, think like us. And if you aren't like us, then we would hate you and destroy you. We will strike you with whips and drive you from our presence. There are others who say, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Go away. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to think about you. I don't want to feel you. I don't want to know you. You are a bother, and if you talk to me again, I will kill you where you stand. These are two extremes, but most people are in the middle, right? They get along with people who are like them. They don't really like people who aren't like them. It doesn't always arise to the level of whips and fire and death. but merely outcrowds and snubbings, merely mean words or not paying attention. Because they feel like they can only be themselves. The suggested claim here is these people feel like they can only be themselves when they are with other people. Everything is a performance. Everything is about, I am comfortable where I am, and I don't want to embrace change. I don't want to know that there are other people exist and other people have feelings and ideas and see the world in different ways. Right? These are a frail sort of mindset, I think. And at 15, he says, better to die than to live like them. Better to die than to live like them. That is a dangerous thought, because it invites death in. It says, I will not be like you. I will accept whatever the world has to give me. I will meet with every man and woman as if they were my brother and my sister. I will stand in the midst of crowds or in the midst of the empty woods and be the same as I am in each case. The gods may bless me or curse me, and it is as nothing, because I am free. I have free will. The crowds, the people, they may hate me or love me. They may praise me or curse me. They may strike me with whips or shower me with flowers. This is nothing. If I am doing what I am doing in order to please them, if I'm begging for a blessing, if I am angry at a curse, then I fail at being myself in the midst of this verse. And it's better to die than to live like them. Better to die than to live like that. And this is a dangerous thought. Because how do we distinguish my authentic self from being a person who is unwilling to change, unwilling to listen? How do I say that I am me and I make my choices the same in the midst of the crowd, in the midst of the people, when I can look at someone else and they seem to act always the same every time I see them? Right? I may become very intolerable of other folk, of other ideas and other movements. Because I say, well, that's just me, that's my life, that's what I believe, and the rest of you can go to hell. Yeah. Well, I understand you have lots of reasons for saying that you can be this person or that person, or that you have this right or that right, but I don't care. My book says this thing, and I believe it, and it speaks to me so clearly. Or I understand you have beliefs and emotions and a morality and a worship session, but I think that's all a crock of crap, so I'm gonna just ignore everything you say because it's not important, because I'm me. Right? We can become intolerable in that self-focus. The difficulty is remaining open and remaining ourselves. The difficulty is to understand someone else's point of view and their reasons, their beliefs, their desires, their needs, their anger and their hate and their love, and yet not be swayed by it, not be moved to tears or moved to rage, but instead remain ourselves, and ourselves first save. Yeah, we talk with others. We help them to see why they're angry. We communicate with them. We are not monsters who hate and destroy, but neither are we malleable plastic, so easily crushed and changed. We aren't Play-Doh. We aren't clay. We are fire. And we are the music strung on the strings of a lyre. The music in the babbling of a brook, the music in the wind and the trees and the voices and the light and the sound. It's like being a leaf on the wind, right? You go wherever you want, but you're also tossed to and fro, yet you remain a leaf, burnt into ash, crumbled up, made to rot. These are but outer changes. You remain a leaf. You remain an atom. You remain a thing indivisible and unbreakable. In the midst of a storm, without dissolving, being beaten and crushed and dented and bent, yet remaining straight in spirit. Our eyes may be put out, but we see clearly still. Why? Because we have the eyes of reason, because we have a mind, because we can understand the world and the universe and the message and the person and ourselves in a way and to a degree which nothing else can. We are unique in all the world because we self-reflect, because we exercise our reason, because we communicate and we can lie and tell the truth, because we can learn and remain ourselves, even as nothing is ever the same. In 24, what is this governing self I'm supposed to have? Has it so melted in my flesh and melded with my body that it is no longer free? And this is something which is always the worry, right? I am sad because I am hungry. I am angry because I'm in pain. It's not wrong. Should anger, what does it have to do with pain? Am I sad? What does it have to do with not having eaten? Right? The modern day, the modern world looks at the person and we see that we have a brain, right? We are biological. We have all these chemicals and humors and electricity and nerve endings going through every bit of our brain. Right? We have these hormones. We have times of stress. We have mental difficulties. We have repressed feelings. We have all of these, and sometimes it feels as if we're just a pack of meat. We're just a machine ordered to move in certain ways by fate or biology or people or society. We're just bourgeoisie or proletariat. We're just Chinese or American. We're just male or female. We're just a grown-up or a child. We're just happy or sad. We're just fulfilled or unfulfilled. But Marcus Aurelius comes from a different era. Comes from a different time, and I think there's something still to be found in there, because yes, we are a biological chemical being, but we are also not a rock. We're not a piece of steel. We're not some cardboard left out in the sun, which is dried and cracked and then rained on and then melted away or burned up or torn to pieces or eaten by something. No. We are something else. We move and we direct. Either we have free will or we do not. If we do not have free will, then we are a rock, and fate will lead us to an exact set of circumstances. And there's no point in anything, because I myself don't exist as a free will being. Or I have free will and I exist, and I have a choice. Maybe a small choice, maybe a circumscribed choice, maybe between A and B. But I still have a choice, which is more than you can say for any rock or piece of steel or planet or moon or star anywhere on the earth. Only the animals, and the plants, only those living things make choices, and we make choices in a different, more complex manner. I think the point to look at is not our biological sense, not the understanding we have of how our brain works. We can see, someone can destroy our mind by whacking us in the head in just the right way. Someone can lobotomize us and remove a drive from us. Yes. We are wrapped up with our brain, with our chemicals, with our nerves. But it does not mean we don't choose. We not know why we choose. I don't know what we choose. We might be so brain injured that we simply sit there and mumble words. But we do mumble those words, even when our mind is completely gone. We do smile at other faces. We do try and act. We do take pleasure or find despair. My grandmother, when her mind is totally lost, she still has a stuffed animal. She's trying to feed the stuffed animal. Barely understands what's happening. Can't even use words. Doesn't know who I am, but she's choosing something. And so I think the point to look at is not our biological existence, rather, it is the nearness we have with the animals. How animal are we? And this is something Aurelius struggles with too here. Is my soul, is my will so bound up with my body that they can't be separated? And, how much free will does a fly have? Or a frog? Or a cat? Or a gorilla? Or a human being? Or an elephant? This is, I think, something to look at. This is the question. How animal are we? Or rather, the question really happens to be, what is life? And we haven't found the answer to that yet. When does life move beyond a system completely understandable by physics to the complexities we have today? We look at quantum mechanics. Is even physics understandable? What is the world? What is this? We don't really know yet. So yeah, there's a link. There's something between the soul and the body, but we actually today do not understand what that is. We have ideas, we have claims, all sorts of people have all sorts of beliefs. But this is just what we can see, what we experience. This is just the theory of science or a religious claim. We don't actually know, and so hope remains. Hope in anything. Mm. 29. Every time you do something, stop and ask yourself, is death to be feared because it will deprive me of this? I think it's an interesting question, right? I'm playing a video game. Should I fear death because I won't be able to finish the video game? I am going to work. Should I be afraid of death because I'll never again be able to go to work? I am writing a book. Should I be afraid of death because I won't finish my book? I am raising a child. Should I be afraid of the death because I won't be able to raise my child? I am volunteering to plant trees in the riverway. Should I fear death because I won't be able to do that anymore? There's obviously a difference between which of those I find important. Right, like I can say today that there are books I'm working on, poems I'm trying to write, ideas I have. But I have also produced some books. I've written some things. I've said some ideas. Put out a few videos. So I may worry about death because of what I won't be able to do. But I can also honestly say, at least I have done something. So with every book I write, with every poem I make, with every video I take, with every person I talk to who says they learned something, or where I felt I learned something from them, the fear of death becomes less and less and less because I've lived more and more and more. And, sometimes we can ask ourselves, it's really that midlife crisis, right? If I was to die tomorrow, what would I have accomplished? But also for Aurelius, it's in the act. If I was to die tomorrow, what act will I have failed to complete that I'm doing today? So I didn't finish the game, so I didn't write the book, so I didn't confess my feelings. Confession is probably the worst thing to fear. A book is less. To not finish the game, oh well. I think I'll survive not figuring out what happens to Titus or 2B. I'll be sad, of course, but not afraid of death because of that. Not worried, really. Yet there are other actions, other ideas. I think that those who have children probably feel much of this. How will my family survive without me? I think that those who have not yet completed a work, not yet done anything, worry about this. The poem, the idea, the music will never be finished. The world will never know the ideas of philosophy I had, never know the feelings I had toward this particular person or idea. And that would be a shame. It really lends you to ask yourself, if I died tomorrow, am I doing something that is so important that I put off death? Because that's really the question here, right? In the heart of Aurelius's thought, he could off himself right now. He could suicide. He could go. And he's saying, I'm doing something important enough right now that I choose life. For him, that's the empire. For him, that's his soldiers. For him, that's his family. For him, it's the law. For him, it is the gods and stoicism and life itself. But as an individual, for me, it's a little more complicated. Am I doing something right now so important that I choose to live? I'm not so sure of that. I think I myself survive in hope and not because I need to tell the next joke. "32. Let no one be able to say truthfully that you are not honest or good. If someone says this, you have the power to make him a liar." And I think that's pretty interesting, right? Hey, you're lying. I could just tell the truth. And now you're the one lying. Hey, you're evil. I could just be good. And now you're the one who's lying. Right? You can change the actual definition of what someone else is doing because they are making a claim about you. But they aren't you. They don't decide who you are or what you do, if you're good or bad. Right? They don't decide if you're telling the truth or lying. I do. I decide. I have this ability to be anything. And no matter what other people say that I am, no matter what they label me or name me or claim about me, I am still me, and they do not have the power to determine myself, my existence. It's just definition there. If I am free, then I act, and if I act, then I choose my actions. I choose my actions. My actions are who I am, then I choose who I am. It is an absolute denial. So what if they call me emperor? So what if they call me slave? Free men set themselves free, as the poem goes. So should I be ashamed and worried when people call me names? Should I be afraid when they threaten me? Should I be sickened at the claims that I'm this or that? Bah! What do they know? I decide. And in this, there is the danger of a horrific pride that dares deny all words of gods and men. So with that, there is a requisite burden. To claim that I am who I am is to say that living like who I am is worth the living. Doing what I do is worth the doing. Right? It says, what prevents you from being honest and good? You need only resolve to end your life if you cannot be such a man. In this case, not even reason obliges you to go on living. And for Marcus, he's saying, or what I'm reading here at least, is that Marcus could go at any moment. And he has resolved that if he is a bad person, if he is evil, if he makes the world a worse place, then he's like, the hell with it, I'm done. I have failed. I am the devil. So to the hell I will go. But he is saying, no. I am not the devil. I've looked at myself in the mirror. I have heard the words of other people. I have understood the wisdom. I have reflected upon myself. I have made claims, and I will stand by them. No matter the words of demons or gods. No matter the words of burning bushes or men and women, or goats with horns. Those are mere appearances. Those are merely voices in the wind. Those are merely flashes of light. How do we recognize the God? How do we recognize the devil? How do we recognize the truth? With the eye of the mind, with the eye of reason, with something deeper than mere appearances. Because we recognize ourselves. We have this capability to reason. We have this capability to match with the forces of the world and recognize that we ourselves are part of them. We are no different than the rock and the tree and the bush that is burning. It's all outer form. It's the inner one that matters. It's who I am. It's my decisions. And Marcus Aurelius says, I am honest enough, believe I am honest enough, and I am tough enough upon myself. And I react with humility and attention to all the words of the world. And I hear in them a truth, a reason, an idea which I feel tells me something important. And this is how all things are, right? He's not saying he's different or unusual or special. He's saying nothing like that. He's saying he's just normal. He's saying that every single person on the earth, this is exactly what you do. When Mr. John reads the Bible and feels that it communicates with him, it's not the words of the Bible. 1,000 people could read that and they wouldn't feel anything like it. No, it's because some idea in there spoke with him. When Muhammad reads the words of the Quran, when Jane reads the words of Confucius, when Mark reads about the ancient Greek gods, when Kyle understands the Buddhist texts, when Yasharob manages to communicate, to understand the Bhagavad Gita, when Maroon manages to get exactly what Descartes or Hume was going on about, right? When I understand the words of a friend, 1,000 other people could hear those words, could hear those ideas, but it would not strike them as clearly, right? It's think about any religion or philosophy or belief or politics or idea. You cannot force a convert into believing. You can force them into following, into acting. You can force them into pretending to be on your side. But at the end, they're just deciding to lie because they fear your vengeance or they want to fit in. or they want a reward, or they're afraid of being their own selves, or anything really except authenticity, except an understanding of the Ren, except a reflection upon the self where we do not deny who we are, and in that we see and feel and know a connection with the reason of both earth and stars, with all the books and all the world. Like, it's the true essence of not of faith really, but of understanding and comprehension. You can't force a conversion. You can only show people and let them listen to themselves, what they are telling themselves about truth and justice. Okay, so in 33, I think is also pretty interesting. Right? The remaining obstacles either act upon the body, an inanimate object, or they are powerless to defeat or do harm unless the mind yield to a false impression or surrender to its own reason. Were this not so, these obstacles would have the effect of making a man bad. We observe the proof of this in nature. Whenever anything is hindered, its condition deteriorates and becomes worse, whereas a man actually becomes better and more praiseworthy when he overcomes what hinders him through the use of reason. So what he's talking about here is life. Life does something which nothing else does. End your life, and we can come back stronger. Right? Look at a star, right? You scoop out a bunch of helium, the star will burn for a shorter time. Look at a rock. You crack it, the crack is never healed. It is replaced with some other mineral. You know, take a computer screen, whack it with a hammer. Take a sword blade, heat it up in a furnace. Take a piece of paper, leave it out in the sunlight. Take a car, ram it into a tree. Take a marble column, let the rain fall upon it. Each and every one of these things will deteriorate and fall apart. But take a human being, work him until he's sore and his muscles hurt, and a week later his muscles will be bigger. He'll be stronger. Take a child and hurt them and torture them and maim them, and they will come back weaker perhaps in some ways, but stronger in others. Even those of us who disassociate, that disassociation is not the sign of a fault or an injury necessarily. It is the sign that we have survived something which would have killed anything that was not alive. Do we flinch in fear at the sight of a face that looks just like one we imagined or remembered? That means we have survived something. We can become better. We can improve. That I am afraid today does not mean I will be afraid tomorrow. That I am afraid means I have learned and I have taken the information of the world and I have made something of it. Now it behooves me to continue that action, to not be a rock, to not simply sit and say, well, I have disassociating. I was afraid, I was injured. And I learned from that and I learned how to survive and I made myself better in a certain way and I stopped. I got through my childhood and I survived, and I changed myself, who and what I am and how I react to things in order to survive. But then I stopped. Then I spent the next 10 years never getting over my old problems. And it was those 10 years that were the issue now, today. It's not what happened to me. It's what I choose to do, what I have continued to choose to do. Because human beings have the capability to come back. Life has the capability to change. And with that always changing, it means we can rearrange every one of our weaknesses into something stronger and better. Because they aren't weaknesses. They're just imbalanced strengths. So, 34. The man who feels the bite of truth, even the most succinct and commonplace sayings, helps guard him against grief and fear. And this is something I definitely notice, right? There are poems I recite when I am really sad. There are ideas I remember when I am pushed. There are visions and memories I go back to when I am melancholy and depressed. There are words of wisdom I mutter to myself when I'm angry and annoyed. When I'm staring out the doorway at a storm and I have to go to work, I'm saying, I really don't want to go, but I'll follow through anyway because I said I would. I'll follow through because that's the kind of person I want to be. Or I'll follow through because of some grand, great idea. Not simply a mere, I need money, I guess I gotta go so I can survive. No, okay, I want to go buy that game. Or I want to talk to that person. Or I want to retire someday, right? These ideas, that it's just these basic ideas come back to us. I mean, we lean upon them, we gain strength from them. Right? We remember a story of the Good Samaritan when we give money or funds away, when we help somebody. We remember the story of King Arthur when we think we aren't enough. We recall about how the antics of the fox, the coyote, or the spider caused all this trouble, but ended up helping people in the end, bringing back fire, or teaching how to weave, or any of these stories, right? We say, I'm a screw-up, I know, but maybe there's some good I might show. You know, you remember the look of a child or a brother or a mother, and they say, you can do this. I know you can. Or I know what kind of person you are, or I believe in you, right? And we lean upon these ideas. We can also lean upon philosophies. I read the American Scholar by Emerson every year, just about. You know, if you have not the ability to speak your truth, then you still have the recourse to live it. It's a quote, I think. Paraphrase quote, possibly. You know, and I recall that when I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to communicate, I lean upon that idea, that memory of how I felt, the feeling, the wisdom of that philosophy. I look back on the allegory of Plato's cave, and I wrote an entire book centered around that idea because it helps me grow and survive and live and change. And this is not something to be ashamed of. We often think, I have to do it by myself. I need to be self-reliant. But Marcus Aurelius looks at this and says, yes, do it by yourself. Be self-reliant. And you, yourself, are part of nature. You, yourself, are reason. And all of nature and all of reason is with you, is part of you. You know, as Emerson says, in yourself slumbers the whole of nature. There is nothing we cannot do that exists as a possibility. Thunder and lightning and struggle and strife, these are but merely a time knife, right? The Jeremy Bearimy little bit. These are not separate from us. They are part and parcel of nature. These words of wisdom are words that speak to us. It goes back to that idea of, the faith or reason or belief or knowledge, right? I read it in a book, I hear someone say it, and all of a sudden I recognize, I should have said that to myself. I was talking with a friend a while ago, and I'm like, I want to do this and do this and do this. I don't want to do this. And he's like, well, here's my advice. And some of the advice I don't remember. Some of it I do. And I go, oh yeah, okay. That's a good idea. I think I'll do that. And I could have said it to myself, but in a way, I did. Why? Because I remembered what he said. Right? Because in the book, I remembered what Emerson wrote. Because I remember what someone laughing sounds like. And it's me who decides to remember that. It's me who decides that is a message from the universe or in reason or that contains a bit of truth. And equally so, I can reject. I can reject advice. I can reject wisdom. I can reject the words of my elders or my boss or random strangers on the internet. It is my choice to decide that. And how do I decide? By reflecting on myself and understanding that I am the voice of reason, and the voice of reason speaks to me. Oh, the world is for my benefit. I am for the benefit of all the world. There is no really strict difference. It's all in the ear and the attention. And this is really the heart of the idea, right? If you remain yourself, if you be yourself, then to paraphrase Emerson again, right? The person living in complete solitude, writing words down in a book which are only for himself and no other, suddenly finds that 10,000 people have felt what he is feeling, have wished to say what he is saying. It's like that phenomenon in the classroom, right? If one kid raises his hand and asks the teacher a question, and there's probably 5 or 6 others who want to ask the same question but just don't have the courage or the will or the desire. But in the individual may slumber a fire which could light all the world. And so in 38 says, remember what pulls the strings is a power hidden deep within you. It is what moves you. In his life, it is, even one might say, the man himself. Never make the mistake of picturing it with the fleshy shell encasing it with other organs attached to it. These are like a carpenter's tools, except that they are joined to the body by nature. Without the inner power that moves or stays these parts, they are as useless as a weaver's shuttle, writer's pen, or a charioteer's whip. That's the essence of the question, right? What is life? Who am I? And if I am free, why do I decide? Gods and devils and demons and magic and mortals and science and laws and physics. We still don't know what existence is.